There is a moment quiet and unannounced, when everything begins to shift, not because of effort, not because of striving, but because something inside you finally lets go. And in that letting go, you make space for the impossible. The mind may still be swirling, but the soul has already whispered, it's coming. You've waited long enough. You've prayed, visualized, persisted in silence, not perfectly, but faithfully, even when nothing seemed to change, even when others told you to give up, to be realistic. But you weren't made for realism. You were made for revelation, for the kind of transformation that happens in an instant, when heaven meets earth through you. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth, shall you not know it? Isaiah 43:19. You see, miracles are not random. They are scheduled, timed perfectly with your surrender. They come when you stop wrestling with the how and rest in the now. Right now, God is not punishing you with delay. He's preparing a way, clearing what you can't yet see, working in the background while your faith holds the frame. There's a woman who once imagined herself debt-free. She didn't know how it would happen. The bills were stacked, her job uncertain. But night after night she whispered one sentence before drifting off to sleep. Thank you, Father, that it is done. Weeks passed, nothing happened, until one morning, an unexpected call, a forgotten refund, a promotion she didn't apply for. In 3 days, everything changed. Not because she forced it, but because she felt it before she saw it. That is the secret. It's not about waiting in frustration. It's about resting in the knowing that if it's already true in imagination, it must become true in form. You are not being overlooked. You are being built. Built for the weight of the blessing. Built to carry the miracle, not chase it. Every delay has carved deeper roots. Every rejection has refined your desire. And now the momentum is rising. The surprise is not just in what comes, but in how effortlessly it arrives. God will do what you cannot, but He waits for you to assume it's already done. Not in arrogance, but in reverence, in deep trust, in joyful expectancy. So tonight, before you close your eyes, don't rehearse the worry. Don't beg. Don't bargain. Just breathe. Feel it. Feel what it would be like to already have what you desire. And say softly in your heart, thank you. I knew you were coming, because you will not need to chase this miracle. It's already chasing you. Stay relaxed and keep watching. The surprise will be sweeter than anything you plan. You may not realize it yet, but something within you has already changed. Not loud or dramatic, just subtle enough to feel like stillness, like the moment before rain touches the earth, like the hush before sunrise breaks the dark. This is the season where ease replaces effort, where your only task is to stay in the state of having, even when the senses argue, even when logic mocks you. For what you feel as invisible is simply what's incubating. It is real, more real than the lack you've been taught to trust. In this world we've grown up chasing, hustling, proving, performing, trying to earn what is already yours in spirit, trying to force the blossom before the root takes hold. But God's gifts are never frantic. They flow to the quiet heart, the one who believes without needing proof, the one who surrenders not in weakness, but in divine confidence. There was a man who once imagined a check in his mailbox. No job, no contacts, only imagination as his companion. Each day he walked to the mailbox and thanked the unseen. He even smiled as if he were holding the envelope. Neighbors thought he was pretending, but he wasn't. He was creating. And then one day, just as he had imagined, the check arrived. The source was unexpected, but the feeling was familiar, because he had already lived it inwardly, long before the world confirmed it. That is how God works, not through chaos, but through conviction. For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. The miracle doesn't rush in because you're desperate. It arrives when you're certain, when you've made peace with the unseen, and feel no need to push. Impatience is not a flaw, it's just a signal. It tells you you've wandered from the state of the wish fulfilled. You've slipped into watching instead of being. But that's okay. Every master has moments of forgetting. Just gently return. Return to the end. Feel the joy as if the thing were already here. Let the world catch up. This isn't a race. It's a remembering. A gentle homecoming to the truth that you've never been separate from the source of abundance. And when your mind wants proof, give it peace instead. Say, I trust the unseen hand. Say, it is done in spirit. And that is enough. Say, God has already surprised me. I'm simply aligning with it now, because that's what this is. A divine alignment. You're not waiting for money. You're matching the mood of someone who already has it. You're not chasing love. You're allowing the frequency of being loved to dwell in you. You're not praying for signs. You are the sign. You're the evidence of what faith looks like when it walks softly and dreams vividly. The world won't understand your calm, but it will respond to it. So relax, breathe into the vision, and remember, you're not behind. You're not late. You're exactly where the miracle needed you to be to receive it fully, gently, gratefully, because God always arrives on time, and often as a surprise. There is a softness in the air tonight. Not everyone can feel it. Only those who have stopped trying to control and started to trust. If you're quiet enough, you'll notice the shift within. Like the way warm water wraps around cold hands, your soul is thawing. It's remembering what it always knew. You were never forgotten. Not by God, not by the dream, not by the version of you who never stopped believing. Even if the world told you to give up, even if months or years passed without a sign, what's been building has always been waiting for the moment you would stop searching and simply feel it, as already done. Because here's the truth. No one teaches the miracle doesn't come because you beg. It comes when you no longer need to. There's a woman who used to write letters to her future. Not to people, to God, to life. She wrote as if it had already happened. I'm so grateful for this home, she'd write, before she had one. I'm overwhelmed by the love in my life when she hadn't been hugged in years. And then with no announcement, everything changed. She got the call, the offer, the kind eyes she'd always prayed for. And when asked how it happened, she simply smiled and said, I stopped doubting. I felt it real, and I waited with joy. Most are taught to wait with worry, to wait with frustration, to question why it hasn't come. But that state only delays. When you shift into knowing, even the silence feels sacred. Even the delays feel divine. Because you know, the miracle isn't out there. It's in you, unfolding, one breath at a time. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Psalm 37:4. Delight doesn't mean pretending. It means letting go of the strain. It means choosing joy before reason. It means trusting the tree before the fruit. You don't water the roots and then demand to see the apple. You water. You wait. You smile. And then one day it's there. So if it feels like nothing is happening, that's when the most is happening. Your inner world is rearranging. Your assumptions are being rewritten. The old story is dissolving as the new one takes its place. You may have felt discouraged today, maybe even numb. That's okay. The body gets tired when it's been carrying resistance too long. So set it down, all of it. The worry, the how, the deadlines you gave to God. None of that is your job. Your only task is this: to rest in the end, to imagine the scene that implies it is done, to play in the feeling like a child who knows their wish has already been heard. You're not being punished. You're being perfected. Every delay is helping you trust deeper. Every obstacle is carving away the doubt. Every quiet moment is a chance to become the one who has, instead of the one who waits. And when you feel far from the dream, return to the feeling of already living it. Don't chase the outer, change the inner. That's how God moves, through imagination, through faith, through the gentle breath of belief that says, I don't need to know how, I only need to know who I am. And you are the one for whom the door is about to open. You are the one being whispered to in dreams. You are the one God is about to surprise. Stay still, stay grateful. It's closer than you think. You don't have to push anymore. You've done enough. This is the part where you let the waves carry you, where you stop swimming against the current and realize you've always been held. Sometimes it's not more effort you need. It's less resistance, a softer breath, a quieter heart. That's where the miracle rushes in, not to the one who works the hardest, but to the one who trusts the deepest. There was a man who lost everything, his job, his home, even his confidence. He thought he had failed God, that maybe he asked for too much, that maybe he wasn't worthy. But something in him refused to quit. Instead of begging, he started thanking. Instead of trying to figure it out, he began to feel it real. I'm so grateful to be free, he whispered. Even when bills piled at his door, I love the life I live, when his reality said otherwise. But his imagination, that sacred space where all things are made, told a different story. And then one morning the phone rang. An old friend, a new offer, a door he didn't knock on swung wide open. You see, it doesn't matter how dark it's been. The light doesn't ask for permission to shine. It simply shows up, because it never left. This is how God moves, in the quiet, in the background, in the stillness where the soul softens. He prepares a way when there seems to be no way. He opens paths not with logic, but with love. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. So when things seem delayed, know this: they are only being designed, not denied. That person who didn't text back, that payment that didn't come, that plan that fell through, it was never rejection. It was redirection. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need to believe in yourself, because God already does. The problem is never the desire. It's the doubt that covers it. The story that says you're too late, that it's too big, that it's not for you. But what if you stopped questioning? What if you surrendered? Not in defeat, but in faith. Faith isn't loud. It doesn't shout or scramble. It rests. It smiles in silence. It walks through the valley as if the mountaintop were already reached. And one day, without force, without stress, you look around and realize you're standing in the middle of the thing you once only imagined. Because you relaxed. You trusted. You became the version of you who has, not the one who waits. Miracles don't need effort. They need alignment. And alignment begins the moment you stop trying to be perfect and start remembering you're already worthy. So lay it down. The fear, the timeline, the lie that you need to hustle for what's already yours. You are not behind. You are right on time. And soon, sooner than you think, you'll say, I don't know how it happened. It just did. Because grace doesn't ask for explanation. It simply delivers, softly, fully, faithfully. And when it comes, when the surprise appears, you'll realize God was never far. The blessing was never gone. You were always just one moment away from everything changing. Breathe. It's coming. Sometimes the miracle isn't loud. It doesn't arrive in thunder or flame. It slips in through the cracks of your doubt. Quiet as a breath, gentle as the sunrise. You don't always notice it at first, because miracles often take the shape of your own calmness, of peace where there was once panic, of stillness where there was once striving. The world may rush and race, but spirit whispers, be still and know that I am God. And in that stillness you begin to remember, not with your mind but with your feeling. You remember what it's like to feel safe, to be sure before you see, to smile before it comes, because you know it's already done. One woman shared her story, a single mother working 3 jobs, barely getting by. She wrote herself a letter each night, not a plea but a prophecy. It always began the same way. Thank you, God, for the abundance that flows so easily to me, even when her fridge was nearly empty. Even when her car needed repairs she couldn't afford. Even when doubt knocked hard at her door. She didn't fight her fear. She didn't suppress her worry. She simply placed her attention elsewhere, on the end scene. In her imagination she saw herself cooking in a spacious kitchen. She felt the joy of surprising her son with a birthday gift he never expected. And then slowly, subtly, life bent. The side job turned into a full-time offer. The neighbor she once helped brought groceries unasked. A local grant she'd forgotten applying for got approved. She didn't chase the how. She relaxed into the knowing. Miracles, you see, are not rare. They are our birthright. But they require a softened heart, not one full of effort, but one emptied of resistance. If you find yourself tired, burned out from trying to make things happen, that's your signal. Not to push harder, but to return inward. The world says hustle, God says surrender. And the greatest acts of faith don't always look brave. Sometimes they look like rest, like long walks with no agenda. Like journaling your joy in advance. Sometimes they look like letting go of timelines and trusting divine ones instead. There's no rush here, because what's yours cannot be taken. It is already on its way, folded into the unseen, gathering momentum in realms beyond sight. You don't need proof. You are the proof. Your desire is the signal that it already exists. For with God nothing shall be impossible. Luke 1:37. Even now something is shifting in your favor, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. Loved. Chosen, worthy without condition. And when it arrives, that miracle that feels handpicked just for you, you'll realize it wasn't random. It was the echo of every unseen prayer, the bloom of every buried seed. So let your heart unclench, let your shoulders drop, let your breath soften, because the miracle you've been waiting for is not far. It's not lost. It's not delayed. It's here. It's near. It's waiting for you to receive it in rest, in trust, in love. And when it finds you, you'll remember this moment, not for what you feared, but for what you dared to believe anyway. There's a moment, a quiet one, when you've released it all, not in defeat, but in trust. The kind of trust that doesn't tremble anymore, even when the evidence is still missing. This is where the miracle meets you. Not in the grasping, not in the forcing, but in the space you make when you no longer need proof to believe. You can feel it in your chest. A soft, warm pull. A whisper that says, keep watching, it's already unfolding. And though your eyes might not yet see, your inner world knows. Because feeling is the first proof. It's the seed of creation. The invisible handshake with the divine. A man once said, I imagine checks coming in the mail, Not once but every night before sleep. Not just the image. I felt the joy. I heard the sound of the envelope tearing. I smelled the paper. I tasted the relief. Weeks passed. Nothing came. He stayed faithful. And then a letter arrived from a business he'd long forgotten. A refund. Unexpected. Followed by another. And another. He didn't do more. He didn't chase. He assumed. He persisted in the assumption that he was already blessed. This is how miracles move. They follow the rhythm of your inner conviction. They don't answer begging. They echo certainty. So ask yourself, do you really believe you're allowed to have it? To be the one who gets the good news? To be the one who sighs in relief? Who laughs out loud when it happens? Who says, of course it came. It had to. Because the version of you who knows it's coming already exists. They are not overwhelmed. They are not desperate. They are not confused. They are resting, walking, smiling, making tea with love, folding laundry with a light heart, looking at the sky and saying thank you before it even rains. This is the vibration miracles understand. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. It's not the size of your desire that matters. It's the ease in your heart. The woman who feels wealthy while holding an empty purse has planted richer soil than the one who clutches millions, but lives in fear. Because wealth is not paper. It's identity. It's rhythm. It's a song you hum under your breath long before anyone else hears it. So if it feels like it's taking time, relax. Time is only the illusion. Creation is already complete. You're not waiting for it. You're letting it catch up to your belief. And the more you surrender, the faster it moves. Not because you hustled harder, but because you allowed more. Remember, you don't manifest by being perfect. You manifest by being true. Even if that truth is, I feel scared right now, but I choose to believe anyway. Even if that truth is, I cried today, but I still know it's mine. Even if that truth is, I'm tired, but I'm willing to rise one more time. Miracles don't require your perfection. They only require your presence. So be here now, in the breath, in the hum of your skin, in the faint pull of hope that refuses to die. This is holy ground. This is where the seed cracks. This is where the light gets in. And just beyond this stillness, something is already blooming. You can't see the roots moving, but they are. You can't hear the shift, but it's coming closer. Not because of luck, but because you dared to believe without seeing. That is the highest act of faith, and God always honors it. Always. There are moments when your faith feels soft like fog. Not gone, just quiet, not weak, just weary. And still that's enough. You don't need roaring belief. You don't need fire in your chest. You only need a whisper. I know it's coming, even if your voice shakes when you say it. Because what you assume in stillness shapes the motion of the world around you. A man once lost everything, his job, his home, even the people he thought would never leave. But in the middle of it all, he dared to believe. This is not the end. This is the unmaking before the miracle. He wrote himself love notes from the future version of him who already made it. He read them at night. He cried sometimes, but he kept going. Within months, a friend he hadn't spoken to in years offered him a place to stay, rent-free. Then a job came, not in the field he expected, but one that gave him peace. And finally, an opportunity to create something of his own. It grew, it flourished, and he never went back to who he was before. Not because he fought harder, but because he rested in the knowing. Miracles don't come with a warning. They slip in when you've stopped watching the clock. They arrive when your shoulders drop, when your breath softens, when you walk without needing to be convinced. They don't respond to worry. They move in rhythm with ease. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Jeremiah 29:11. There is no punishment in the pause. There is preparation. There is alignment. There is calibration of your spirit to the melody of what's already yours. But sometimes your mind will scream, why hasn't it happened yet? And in those moments, return to the body, to breath, to feeling. What would it feel like if it was already done? Don't answer with your logic. Answer with sensation. Would you feel lighter? Would your heart move slower? Your hands unclench? Your brow soften? That's where the power is. Not in a chant, not in a ritual, but in the way your body says, I'm no longer chasing. I am resting in what is mine. One woman imagined her phone buzzing. She didn't know why. She just knew it was good news. She practiced feeling the smile before it came. She didn't count the days. She counted the feelings. And one evening, as the sun dipped behind her window, her phone rang. A debt she'd forgotten, wiped clean. A new client paid in full. A message. You've been selected. She laughed, not because she was shocked, but because her imagination had told her all along. and yours will too, if you let it. If you quiet the noise, soften the grip, and just assume gently. You don't need to convince anyone, not your friends, not the people who scoff, not the part of you that still doubts. You just need to convince one person, the you that lives inside, the one who already knows how this ends, the one who lives in the end, the one who walks through today with the ease of someone who has already seen the harvest. So smile at the delay. It's not denial, it's divine timing, working in ways you don't yet see. And when it does arrive, as it must, you will look back and understand why the path curved, why the doors closed, why the silence stretched, because every closed chapter was pushing you deeper into the version of you who was always meant to receive. And now you're almost there. Let go just a little more. Loosen your jaw. Inhale with faith. Exhale with certainty. God is not ignoring you. He is preparing to astonish you, not because you begged, but because you believed. You are not waiting for life to begin. It's already happening right now beneath the surface. Even when it feels like nothing is moving, something within you is shifting. You might not see it yet, but your assumptions are alive. They ripple through the unseen, carving out the path for what's next. That's why the most powerful thing you can do is not to struggle, but to soften. There is more strength in surrender than in resistance. The river never forces its way forward. It flows steady, unbothered, because it knows where it's going. So must you. One man wrote in his journal every day, "I am a magnet for divine surprises." He didn't feel it at first. Some days he was broke. Some days he felt like a fraud. But he still wrote it, not to force it, but to remind himself who he really was beneath the fear. And one evening, as he sipped his tea in silence, an unexpected email came in. A friend had referred him to a client, not just any client, but one that paid more than his old job ever did. He smiled, not in disbelief, but in quiet recognition. This is how it works, not by rushing, but by resting in the assumption that what you desire is already seeking you. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Psalm 37:4. Not strive, not beg, delight. Feel the joy before the result. Feel the gratitude before the gift. Feel the peace before the door opens. That is the secret so few dare to believe, that the state comes first, and the facts follow. You must become the one who already has what you seek, in feeling, in tone, in vibration. The world may still reflect the old, but your inner world, that's where the new is born. And if you stay there long enough, the outer must conform. It's law. Still, there are days when doubt creeps in, when the silence feels like rejection, when you wonder if you're making it all up. That's okay. Don't punish yourself for being human. Your doubt is not a sin. It's an invitation to remember what you've already assumed. You don't have to feel perfect. You only need to feel true. The real you, beneath the worry, beneath the timelines, beneath the comparisons. Remember the childlike wonder, that feeling of knowing something good was coming, even if you didn't know how. That's the energy that creates worlds. Not control, not calculation, but trust. Warm, quiet, uncluttered trust. So go ahead. Whisper your desire like a secret into the silence. Then let it go, like a letter sent without doubt, knowing it will arrive. Miracles are not earned. They are remembered. They come when you stop fighting and start aligning. And the best part, they often arrive wrapped in something you never expected. That's how God works. Not always through the door you were knocking on, but through the one you didn't even notice had been open all along. So if the door closes, smile anyway. Say thank you. It wasn't rejection. It was redirection. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. The surprise is closer than you think, but it needs the version of you who believes before seeing, who walks with ease, who breathes with peace, who smiles at the invisible currents, pulling all things into place. Let go of the how. Let go of the when. Return to the who. Who are you becoming? Who are you being in imagination? Even if no one else can see it yet, be that, not for you. Because life is not waiting to give you gifts, it is waiting for you to feel ready to receive them. And when you do, God will surprise you in ways you couldn't have dreamed. Not because you were perfect, but because you finally rested in the knowing that you are loved, that you are worthy, that it is already done. Close your eyes tonight with the softest smile. The miracle is not out there. It's unfolding within you. The most powerful moments often arrive in silence. Not with a trumpet, but with a whisper in the heart, a subtle shift, a breath of clarity, a sudden knowing that something has changed. You may not see the manifestation yet, but your body knows. Your spirit recognizes the vibration before the eyes do, and that's how miracles feel. They don't barge in, they slip through your softened state the moment you stop needing and start trusting. A woman once told Neville her story. She had struggled for years, longing for a home she could call her own. Every door closed, every attempt denied, until one night in stillness, she imagined walking through her dream home. She felt the warmth of the walls. She heard her footsteps echo in the hallway. And then she did something radical. She rested. She stopped worrying. She stopped searching listings. She surrendered to the feeling that it was already hers. 3 weeks later, a relative she had barely spoken to in years called to offer her a home. No strings, no catch. A gift. It had been waiting for her. But it could not find her until she became the version of herself that knew she already had it. And that's the key. The state precedes the event. Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. Mark 11:24. It's not about asking with doubt. It's about assuming with faith, and then relaxing completely into that feeling. We live in a world that teaches effort, praise for hustle, validation through struggle. But the kingdom of God operates on different laws. Stillness is power. Inner conviction bends the outer form. And peace is the pathway to everything. So if things look delayed, ask yourself, not what am I doing wrong, but who am I being right now? Are you being the one who already knows the outcome is certain? The one who smiles at closed doors because they no longer define your truth? That's where miracles flow, not from effort but from identity. If you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you collapse time. You shorten the distance between now and the evidence. And in that sacred space of assumption, God meets you, not as a distant force, but as your own wonderful human imagination, carrying the spark of creation, the blueprint of every answered prayer. You're not here to chase. You're here to remember, to embody the wealth, the love, the joy, before it shows up. And yes, there will be days when the old identity tries to pull you back, when impatience whispers, you're not doing enough. In those moments, don't fight, don't wrestle, just return. Return to the state, feel the end, feel the miracle complete, and then let it go. Breathe. The surprise you're waiting for needs your relaxation, not your tension. When the clouds of resistance part, the light was always there. Your job is to let it shine through. So tonight, as your head touches the pillow, don't repeat the worry. Repeat the truth. Say softly, I already have it. It is done. God is bringing me a life I love. And sleep deeply, like one who trusts the unseen. Because what's coming for you is not just a blessing. It's a reflection of the self you dared to embody before the world gave you permission. Keep relaxing into that identity, and the surprise won't just be life-changing. It will feel like coming home. Somewhere within you there's a version of yourself who already has the miracle, not begging for it, not waiting for a sign, but breathing it in, as naturally as you breathe in air. That version of you is not imaginary, it's real, it's present, and it's waiting for you to step into its shoes and walk like it's already done. When Neville spoke of assuming the wish fulfilled, he wasn't talking about daydreaming, he was revealing a law. What you feel to be true even before it appears becomes the mold from which life is cast. And yet, so many of us delay our blessings not because they are far, but because we haven't dared to feel how close they truly are. Miracles don't come because we force them to. They come because we create a home for them in our body, in our emotions, in our atmosphere. And that home is peace, not the kind that waits until results show up, but the kind that trusts in the unseen as if it were already written, because it is. Remember the story Neville told of a man who desperately wanted a promotion. He did all the right things. He worked harder. He networked. He pleaded in prayer, but nothing changed until he stopped. He let go. He imagined himself already in the new role, not with frantic energy, but with quiet certainty. He saw himself leaving the office with the weight of success in his stride. He didn't visualize out of lack. He became the man who already had it. And just days later he was offered the very promotion that had once seemed out of reach. This is what it means to create from the end. You don't wait for the miracle to give you the permission to feel peace. You bring the peace first, and the miracle has no choice but to meet you there. As it's written, thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Isaiah 26:3. That peace is your magnetic field. It's the vibration that tells the universe you're no longer hoping, you are knowing. And when you know, life rearranges itself to match your certainty. Even the delays serve a divine rhythm. Even the silence has sound if you listen with your spirit. You may feel like nothing is happening, but the roots are growing underground. The money, the relationship, the healing, the opportunity. It's already on its way to you, not because you deserve it someday, but because you dared to embody it now. You see, the old self wants proof. It waits with clenched fists. It panics when there's no sign. But the awakened self, it smiles. It rests. It knows that what it assumes must come to pass. There's a deeper intelligence that moves through you when you stop doubting and start dwelling in the feeling of already. So tonight, no matter what the world shows, no matter how far your desire may seem, choose again, feel again. Let the version of you who already has the miracle guide your breath, your posture, your being. Fall asleep not as the one who's waiting, but as the one who has arrived. The surprise is already written. It's not a matter of if, only of alignment. So relax, surrender the grip, and return to the rhythm of trust, because the moment you stop chasing it, the miracle starts running toward you. Somewhere in the quiet between your heartbeat and your breath, there is a signal being sent to the infinite, not in words but in feeling. Not the desperate feeling of asking, but the peaceful feeling of knowing. When your emotions are still, when your mind is not running after results, when you stop checking the outer world for signs of the inner work, you slip into alignment. And in that silence, the divine moves swiftly. This is not about trying harder. Trying is resistance dressed up in effort. This is about trusting deeper. You see, your desire was not random. It was planted in you like a seed because there is already a version of you who has harvested its fruit. You wouldn't long for something if it didn't already exist. Neville once said, feeling is the secret. And yet so many seek results before they allow the feeling to settle in. But manifestation isn't waiting for your proof. It's waiting for your permission. The moment you feel it real, you give God the signal, I am ready now. A woman once wrote to Neville after struggling for years with finances. She had tried affirmations, visualizations, even fasting and prayer. Still nothing seemed to change, until one day she stopped, not out of frustration but out of surrender. She sat down on her couch, closed her eyes, and imagined the relief, the deep soothing relief, of knowing all her bills were paid. She didn't ask how. She just rested in the feeling as if someone had already told her, it's done. 2 days later, she received an unexpected inheritance from a distant relative she hadn't spoken to in decades. Was it coincidence, or was it her shift in state that collapsed the distance between want and reality? You see, your world responds not to words but to your state of being. When you move from effort to embodiment, the world becomes soft, cooperative, almost dreamlike in how it obeys. For with God nothing shall be impossible. Luke 1:37. But the God spoken of here is not outside you watching from afar. It is the I am within, the spark of divine consciousness that shapes reality by awareness alone. So when you declare, I am abundant, or I am healed, or I am loved, you are not merely repeating phrases. You are summoning the substance of your world. But it must be felt, deeply, truly, with the full weight of surrender, not recited like a mantra, but worn like a skin. If you say, I am wealthy, but feel lack, you are still married to the old man. And as Neville taught, you cannot put new wine in old wineskins. You must let the old identity die so that something sacred can be born. And that death, that letting go of impatience, of checking, of doubt, is what makes room for the miracle. This is why many feel stuck. They are trying to carry the old version of themselves into the promised land. But miracles are not given to the one who waits. They are revealed to the one who becomes. So tonight, let the becoming begin. Feel the gratitude as if it already arrived. Smile gently as if the email, the call, the door has already opened. Soften your chest, unclench your thoughts, and let the surprise come through in its perfect time. Not by might, not by effort, but by the silent, powerful assumption that it is already yours. It's strange how the moment you stop chasing the outcome is the moment it begins to chase you, like breath returning after stillness, like rain arriving the second you stop checking the sky. There is something holy about the stillness that follows surrender, not giving up but giving in to the truth that you are already held. You've tried forcing, you've begged, you've pushed prayers into the sky like arrows desperate for a target, and yet the treasure always lay beneath your own feet, because God does not respond to need. He responds to faith, not the loud public kind, but the quiet, intimate conviction that says, even now when I cannot see how, I still believe. You are not late. You have not missed it. You are simply learning how to stop interfering with the very blessing trying to reach you. A man once told Neville he was tired of trying to think positive, tired of pretending he didn't care when his reality screamed otherwise. Neville asked him just one question. Can you just for tonight sleep in the feeling of relief? Not joy, not celebration, just the gentle relief that it's done. No fireworks, no signs needed, just the still deep peace of knowing the seed has been planted. And the man did. He laid down that night, not commanding the world to change, but allowing his soul to rest in it. And within days his long-withheld promotion came through, not because he fought for it, but because he became it. This is the paradox of miracles. They appear the moment you no longer need proof. They bloom in the garden of those who stop digging up the soil to check the roots. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Stillness is not stagnation. It is the womb of manifestation. It is what happens when you stop arguing with reality and start flowing with truth. You are not here to earn your miracles. You are here to accept them. Let go of the idea that struggle makes you worthy. The universe isn't testing you. It's waiting for you to recognize you've already passed. You don't have to prove you're ready. You only have to feel as though you are. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, and feel into a moment where everything you desire is already so. Feel the texture of the bed sheets in your dream home. Hear the laughter in the background of your success. See your name at the bottom of the check, and then let it go. Not as rejection, but as surrender. Let it return to God's hands, where all things are multiplied and given back in divine timing. You are not forgotten. You are not being ignored. You are being prepared to receive what you once thought was too big. And the delay, it isn't punishment, it's alignment. Sometimes the miracle takes time, not because you are not ready, but because it is becoming bigger than you originally imagined. So tonight, release the need to know when, and rest in the certainty that it's already done. You were not created to chase. You were created to attract. And when you fully embody the state, when you feel the miracle before it arrives, you don't just witness the promise, you become it. The surprise is coming, but not to the version of you that's anxious. It's coming to the one who dares to rest as though it has already arrived. Sometimes, just before the breakthrough, everything feels quiet, not the peace-filled quiet, but the kind that stirs your doubts, the kind that makes you wonder if anything is even moving. It's in that silence where the ego screams the loudest, where the mind demands evidence, and the heart must whisper back, I already know, because faith isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It is the quiet certainty that what is unseen is just as real as what is seen. And though your outer world may not yet reflect it, the inner shift is already complete. You are no longer the one who hopes. You are the one who knows. Neville said that every state is already prepared, that your assumption, once sustained, clothes itself in flesh. It's not that you must become worthy. You must become receptive. But receptivity is not passive. It is the courageous act of feeling the end when the beginning looks nothing like it, of smiling before the money hits the account, of relaxing your shoulders while the world seems unsure, of saying thank you before anything changes. This is the language of miracles. There was a woman who longed for love. Years passed, filled with dates that went nowhere, moments that chipped at her confidence, and nights spent rehearsing stories of not being enough. But one evening she stopped. She lit a candle. She put on music she imagined dancing to with someone who adored her. She laid in bed feeling his arms as if they were already around her. She didn't beg. She didn't plead. She became the version of herself who was already loved. And then, as quietly as the stars turned, he appeared. Not because she searched harder, but because she aligned. That is what God's surprise looks like. It doesn't explode. It unfolds. It finds you when you least expect it, but most feel it. As Scripture says, before they call, I will answer. While they are still speaking, I will hear. Isaiah 65:24. You are not manifesting from effort. You are manifesting from embodiment. So if your miracle seems delayed, ask not, where is it? Ask instead, am I willing to feel it before I see it? To be relaxed is not to be careless. It is to be powerful. It is to trust the divine intelligence that sculpted galaxies can surely arrange a phone call, a meeting, a deposit at the perfect moment. And if your mind still doubts, let it. Doubt is not the enemy. It's the doorway. Because every time you feel fear and choose faith instead, you build the bridge. You become the testimony. You don't need to control how it will happen. Your only job is to embody the outcome as if it has already happened. To rest in the energy of completion, even while the world still whispers not yet. And that kind of trust, that relaxed, surrendered knowing, becomes magnetic. It draws the unseen into form. So tonight, breathe deeper. Let go of the timelines. Stop refreshing the page of your life. God is not late. He's simply strategic. And the surprise will come not when you panic, but when you finally rest in the promise you already are. There is a sacred stillness between planting and harvest, a space where nothing seems to change, yet everything is unfolding beneath the surface. In that silence, you are being asked to become, not just the one who asks, but the one who already has. You are not waiting on a miracle. You are maturing into it. Neville once said, be still and know that what you are seeking is already yours. This knowing isn't intellectual. It's emotional. It's embodied. And that's what confuses the logical mind. Because logic will argue that action creates results. But spirit whispers your assumption creates them first. The feeling is the cause. The world is just the echo. A man once wrote that he was drowning in debt. He felt ashamed, restless, desperate. But one night while lying in bed, he imagined opening a letter from the bank. Not a demand for payment, but a confirmation of cleared balance. He didn't beg. He didn't pray with panic. He relaxed into the scene and fell asleep with a smile. 2 weeks later, an investment he'd long given up on returned with more than enough. Not because he chased it, but because he embodied relief before the relief arrived. This is what it means to live in the end. To carry the energy of done in the presence of undone. Your world reflects your identity. So if you want more abundance, you must become the one who no longer fears its absence. If you want miracles, you must carry the stillness of one who already walks with the divine. The world says work harder. Spirit says align deeper. And alignment is often uncomfortable, because it asks you to surrender the familiar pain you've worn like armor. It asks you to release the story that you're unlucky, unseen, or behind. But that story is not your truth. It's just an echo of who you used to be. You are not behind. You are being prepared. Prepared to hold what you once feared. Prepared to receive what you once chased. Prepared to walk into a room and know that what's yours will never miss you. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to believe differently. For with God nothing shall be impossible. Luke 1:37. And if that's true, then your only job is to remove the blocks within that say it's not. You've tried force. You've tried effort. Now try flow. Let grace carry you. Instead of asking when will it come, ask can I relax and know it already has. That's the shift. That's the secret. And when you live from that inner place, money flows, opportunities whisper. Doors open not because you knock harder, but because you expect them to. You are not meant to hustle your way into miracles. You are meant to receive them in the frequency of rest. So tonight, as you lie down, place your hand over your heart and feel it beat. Each pulse is a promise, a signal that you are still in the game, still in the unfolding, still chosen. Let that be enough. Let that peace be your new starting point. The miracle is not far. It's simply waiting for the version of you who finally trusts that it's already yours. You don't need signs. You need surrender. Because when you're in alignment, everything begins to respond to your assumption, not your effort. Money doesn't come because you chase it. Love doesn't find you because you beg for it. Healing doesn't happen because you fear what will occur without it. It all flows when you relax into the feeling of already having it. A woman once shared how she'd visualized herself walking into a dream home, not just seeing it, but feeling the keys in her hand, the weight of the front door as she opened it, the warmth of sunlight falling across the hardwood floors. She did this for weeks. No force, no frantic effort, just gentle immersion into the scene each night before bed. The home came not through her job, but a friend who connected her with an opportunity she never expected. And when she stepped into that home for the first time, she said it felt like déjà vu, because in truth she had already lived there within. This is the power you hold, not to manipulate circumstances, but to inhabit the identity of the one who already receives. But most people skip this step. They want proof before belief. They want outcomes before embodiment. And so they wait, not realizing they are the ones delaying the miracle. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are. So what are you being in this moment? Are you being the one who lacks, or the one who already is? Be honest with yourself, not to judge, but to become aware. Because awareness is the first spark of transformation. It's okay to feel doubt, to wrestle with impatience, to fall into fear and crawl your way back out. This journey is not about being perfect. It's about being willing, willing to try again, willing to soften your grip, willing to believe, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. It's okay to not see it yet, but can you feel it? Can you breathe into the version of you who already lives with the miracle? Can you walk through your day as if the blessing is already behind the curtain? Because it is. When you truly let go, not give up, but let go, you allow life to meet you. And it does. In small subtle signs, in unexpected meetings, in inner nudges that lead to new doors. There is a rhythm to manifestation, but it's not the rhythm of rushing. It's the rhythm of receptivity, of a heart that stays open even when the mind doubts. You are not late. You are not missing the moment. You are the moment. It's unfolding through you, not to you. So sleep tonight with peace, not because everything is perfect, but because everything is possible. You've planted seeds in the unseen. Now rest, knowing the soil is working for you. Tomorrow will bring evidence, but tonight, bring trust. Let it be enough that you believe. Let it be enough that you imagine. Let it be enough that you chose faith when fear made more sense. Miracles favor the bold-hearted, not the ones who shout, but the ones who whisper, I am ready, and you are. Even if you can't feel it, even if the old identity still lingers, it's okay, you're becoming, and that's the real miracle. There are moments when you feel like nothing's moving, when you whisper your desires into the stillness, and the stillness only echoes back your longing, but the silence is not a void. It is a womb. In the silence, the seeds you planted are stretching, pushing through the unseen soil, gathering momentum beneath the surface of what your eyes can yet perceive. This is the sacred pause, where faith is formed, where old identities begin to unravel, and the new you quietly, invisibly takes root. You are not being punished. You are being prepared for what you asked for what you already are in the dimension beyond time. And if you could step back for just a moment, you'd see it was never a delay, but a divine alignment. A woman once said she almost gave up on everything. The money wasn't coming. The clients weren't calling. The promises she affirmed felt like they were mocking her. But something inside her said, pretend it's done just for today. And so she did. She walked as though the money had arrived. She smiled as though the love was already hers. She cooked dinner and danced in her kitchen as though life had already bloomed into her greatest vision. That week, not months later, a friend she hadn't spoken to in years called her out of the blue. That call led to a business opportunity, a collaboration, and yes, abundance. The miracle didn't come when she forced. It came when she floated. When she leaned into the feeling of peace instead of the pressure to prove. When she said to the universe, I trust you more than I trust my fear. You see, the one thing that breaks the pattern is not striving harder. It's surrendering deeper. Miracles don't respond to desperation. They respond to identity. Who are you being now? The version of you still doubting, or the version who says, even if I don't see it, I still believe it's mine. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You just have to persist. Keep breathing into your vision. Keep nurturing the version of you who already received. Don't panic when the old world tries to pull you back. It will. That's its nature. It wants you small, familiar, safe. But you are not meant to shrink to fit old patterns. You are meant to expand to meet your new promise. Behold, I will do a new thing, now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? Isaiah 43:19. You will know it, but first you must feel it. Not with your hands, but with your heart. Feel the life that's trying to emerge through you. Not from pressure, but from permission. You are allowed to rise. You are allowed to receive. You are allowed to rest and still be worthy. Not everything has to be earned in sweat and struggle. There is a gentler power, the kind that comes when you say, I am already enough, and because I am, all that I desire is already on its way. So when you lie down tonight, release the tension in your jaw, soften your breath. Let your mind unwind from all the what-ifs and how-wills. You've done your part. Now let God move. Let the surprise come without resistance. Let the miracle arrive in peace. It doesn't need a spotlight. It only needs space. And you, beloved, are finally becoming the space where grace flows freely. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs wear the disguise of stillness. It feels like nothing's happening, but the soil is never silent when the seed begins to shift. You may think you've waited too long, that others have passed you by, that the promise has forgotten your name. But listen, God's timeline doesn't operate in linear time. It dances in divine rhythm, woven through faith, anchored in unseen realms, and delivered in sudden turns of grace. One man, once desperate to pay rent, sat alone on his bed and whispered, if you are real, surprise me. He didn't shout. He didn't beg. He simply sank into silence and felt the relief of the problem being solved. He imagined checking his mailbox and smiling. He saw his landlord nodding with approval. He embodied the calm of one who already had. Within 2 days, a letter arrived from a former employer, a forgotten reimbursement with interest, more than enough to cover the month. He didn't manifest the check through force. He aligned with the feeling of relief. That is the difference between wishing and knowing. So many ask, when will it happen? But the deeper question is, can you feel it now? Because it's not your job to make the miracle. It's your job to become the version of you who receives it. A miracle is not outside you waiting in a distant future. It is within you waiting for permission. And permission comes the moment you stop wrestling with reality and begin resting in assumption. That's where the shift lives. In the choice to feel it real, not later, not someday, but now. Even when nothing around you confirms it. Especially then. That's when your faith is no longer theory. It becomes embodiment. According to your faith be it unto you. Matthew 9:29. Faith doesn't mean absence of doubt. It means refusing to bow to it. It means knowing your inner world holds more power than the noise of current facts. It means seeing with the eyes of spirit, not what is but what must be. Because you dared to assume it already is. Let the world contradict you. Let the circumstances remain unchanged for a while. That's not your concern. Your only task is to remain in the feeling, to stay in the state, to let the evidence gather after you've declared it done. Do not rush. Do not chase. Relax. You are not running toward your miracle. You are letting it catch up to your vibration. The moment you drop resistance, the moment you stop needing proof, is the moment things begin to move. And when they move, oh how they move quickly. Doors you never knew existed swing wide. People you didn't know remembered you reach out. Ideas flash into your awareness like lightning. Bright, clear, undeniable. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. And the positioning requires stillness, so that when the blessing arrives, you are not flinching from it, but ready to embrace it fully. So rest tonight with a soft heart. Lay your head down like the one who has already received. Feel the bed beneath you as if it were the arms of God. Let the hum of peace lull you deeper into the state of the wish fulfilled. No striving, no proving, only trusting, because the miracle isn't just coming, it's already begun. There is a quiet moment in every transformation where the old begins to dissolve, not with thunder, but with stillness. The mind may search for confirmation, for evidence, for signs that it's working, but the soul already knows. It remembers what you've forgotten, that miracles are not earned through effort, but received through surrender. To surrender is not to give up, it is to give in, to the knowing that what you desire is already yours in imagination, and therefore must appear in form. This is not wishful thinking. This is spiritual law. You don't plant a seed and dig it up the next day to check its progress. You water it. You trust the unseen. You let the sun and soil do their part. And so it is with your desire. You don't chase it down. You rest in the feeling that it's already unfolding. You imagine the outcome with such clarity, such emotional richness, that your body cannot tell the difference between dream and fact. That's the key. The subconscious responds not to what you say, but to how you feel. And feelings come not from the outer world, but from the inner narrative you choose to tell. So choose carefully. Speak the story of your blessing before it arrives. Feel the gratitude before the gift is wrapped. A woman once imagined walking into her dream home. She had no savings, no lender, no clear path, only the scene she played nightly before sleep. She felt the warmth of the wood floors beneath her bare feet. She touched the doorknob in imagination. She watched her children laugh in the kitchen of her mind. She did this until it felt more real than her apartment. Weeks later, a friend introduced her to someone looking to rent a home until a delayed buyer closed the deal. The home, the very one she imagined. Same kitchen, same floors, same front door, and the rent, half of what she was paying. This is not fantasy, it's divine design. For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. Sight comes after faith, not before. You won't see it to believe it. You'll believe it, and then you'll see. So breathe, not because the miracle is near, but because it's already here, clothed in the invisible, waiting for your recognition. Release the grip, drop the tension in your chest, soften the furrow in your brow. There is no need to earn what has been freely given. You are not forgotten. You are not delayed. You are not behind. You are ripening. You are ripening. You are becoming the vessel capable of holding what you've asked for. And if it takes a little longer, it's only because the gift is too big to be rushed. Let others run ahead. Let the noise of comparison fade behind you. Your miracle is not on their timeline. It's on God's. And God never shows up late, only right on time. So tonight, give thanks without reason. Smile for no cause. Rest in the beauty of anticipation, as one who knows the package has already been shipped, and the delivery is inevitable. Sleep not as someone who's waiting, but as someone who's already received. The most divine surprises are often born in the quiet, not in the chaos of trying, but in the hush of trust. There's a softness to miracles. They don't scream when they arrive, they whisper. They slide into your reality like a memory you forgot you imagined. And the irony, they feel natural, not explosive or grandiose, but right. Like a homecoming to a place your soul always knew existed. You don't need to fight for what's yours. You need only to stop fighting yourself. For every moment you say, it's not here yet, you rehearse the absence instead of the presence. But your words are not just sounds. They are seeds. When you speak from fulfillment, you water the roots of your own miracle. When you say, it is done, you are not lying. You are aligning. A man once said that all he did was this: he sat in the feeling of abundance. Not for hours, but for minutes, just long enough to believe it. He didn't chant affirmations. He didn't track every coin. He just sat in a chair, closed his eyes, and imagined the joy of not needing to check the price tag. He played the scene until his breath deepened. His shoulders dropped and peace replaced the panic. 3 days later, he received a job offer out of nowhere. Double the salary, half the hours. Not a reward, a reflection. Not a coincidence, a correspondence. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Psalm 37:4. And what is delight? Not a demand, not a chase, but a state. Delight is a vibration. It is lightness. It is joy before the thing. So feel now what you think you can only feel later. That's the secret. Take your hands off the wheel and let the current of assumption carry you home. You are not building the bridge. You are standing on it, already crossing, already halfway between what was and what will be. There will be moments when the old world still calls your name, moments when doubt dresses itself up in logic, when the silence makes you question the vision. But remember this, silence is not absence. It is incubation. You are not forgotten. You are being formed. Even the moon disappears for a while, but we never question its return. So don't panic in the dark. You are not losing the dream. You are merging with it. Rest in that. If the day feels heavy, lay it down. If the fear creeps in, thank it for visiting. Then send it on its way. Tonight, curl into the comfort of what's to come. Let your pillow hold the weight your heart no longer has to carry. Exhale the old stories. Inhale the possibility. And as you close your eyes, say not a plea but a proclamation. Something wonderful is happening for me now. I may not see it, but I feel it. That is enough. It is always enough. There's a turning point in every story, but it rarely comes with fanfare. It arrives in stillness, in a sigh, in the moment you stop checking, stop chasing, and simply become. Miracles don't happen when you demand them. They happen when you no longer need proof, because belief is not a contract with the universe. It's a confession to yourself. Can you sit in your own silence and say, I know it's already mine? Can you walk into the room like the problem was solved yesterday? That's the unseen shift, the invisible click where you go from seeker to source. You stop asking and start assuming, not blindly, but confidently, like someone who's seen the map in a dream and knows exactly where the treasure lies. A woman once wrote that her debt terrified her. Each morning it woke up with her. Each night it tucked her into bed. She tried budgeting, tried hustling, tried asking God with clenched fists and tearful eyes. But one day she did something different. She laughed. She imagined the relief of a letter, balance paid in full. She printed it, taped it to her wall. And every time fear returned, she read it aloud, not to convince the universe, but to realign herself. 3 months later, her employer discovered an error. Years of underpaid bonuses. The deposit covered her debt to the penny. Did she cause it? Not in the way the world teaches, but in the language of feeling. She spoke the truth into form. For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. Faith isn't ignoring reality. It's reshaping it from the inside. You don't fight what is. You dissolve it by falling in love with what will be. That's how God moves. Not through pressure, but peace. Not by force, but by faith made flesh. And sometimes the very moment you let go, the miracle enters. Because surrender isn't giving up. It's giving over your will to divine order, your panic to divine timing. And yes, some days it will feel like nothing is working. You'll want to open the oven and poke at the seed you buried. But the law is faithful. The seed knows how to bloom. Trust that the unseen is not idle. Your assumption is the architect. Your persistence is the builder. And your rest is what makes room for grace. So tonight, as your body settles into the quiet rhythm of sleep, imagine one scene, just one. Make it real in your mind, not as a movie but as memory, not as hope but as done. Feel the warmth of having it. Let your chest relax. Let your breath deepen. Let your spirit smile, because something is already moving for you. Not because you worked harder, but because you remembered who you are. You were never waiting on a miracle. The miracle was waiting on you. You don't need to figure out how it will happen. That's the realm of the infinite. Your only task is to feel the outcome, to trust the end so completely that the middle can no longer shake you. There is a current beneath the chaos, and it's already carrying you to the life you've asked for, even when you can't yet see the shoreline. The mind will try to bargain. It will say, but what if it doesn't come? What if I'm not ready? What if I lose it again? Let the mind speak, and then answer from the deeper place, the place that knows I have already received it in spirit. The outer world is just catching up. The miracle isn't distant. It's already done in the invisible. Your only work is to align to become the person who no longer wonders if it's coming. They already are it. A man once told the story of how he healed his financial struggle, not by getting a new job, not by working extra hours, but by reimagining who he was when no one else was watching. Each morning he sat for 5 minutes, not with desperation but with stillness. He closed his eyes, felt the keys to a new home in his palm, heard the sound of his name being called at the bank. Mr. Carter, your approval came through. He didn't do it to make something happen. He did it because it felt real. And that feeling was the invitation. Within 2 weeks, a friend offered him a role at double the pay. He hadn't applied, hadn't searched. He simply shifted his identity, and the world had no choice but to rearrange. This is the secret few speak of. You don't get what you beg for, you get what you embody. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Psalm 37:4. Delight is the key, not pressure, not proving, but joy in knowing it is already written. You weren't put here to stress, strive, and stumble your way to grace. You were sent here to remember that your imagination is not a fantasy tool. It is your divine inheritance, your portal into the unseen. When the world feels loud, go within, not with fear, but with faith made still. Let your inner world be the secret garden, where your dreams walk freely before they bloom in public. Because what you do in the silence of your soul echoes louder than anything you say out loud. That is where miracles are born, not in noise but in knowing. So tonight let yourself return, not to effort, but to ease. Let the breath slow, let the weight fall off your shoulders, and in the darkness behind your eyes, see it, already yours, already here. You don't have to force it, you don't have to chase it, just feel it, then let go, because your miracle isn't waiting on the stars to align, it's waiting on you to. And God is never late, he's simply waiting for you to see yourself the way he already does, worthy, whole, and ready. The moment you stop trying to make it happen, is the moment the universe begins moving for you, not because you've given up, but because you've given in to the knowing that it's already yours. You can't fake surrender, you can't pretend peace, but you can rest in the felt truth that what you desire is not outside of you, it is within you, waiting to be released. Imagine a woman with tears in her eyes, sitting alone in a cafe. She's prayed, she's scripted, she's visualized, but nothing has moved. And then one day she takes a breath deeper than usual and whispers to herself, I am no longer waiting. In that instant, something shifts, not in the world, but in her being. The tightness around the dream loosens, and her heart, for the first time, feels light again. She doesn't stop imagining, but now she does it with warmth, not desperation. She sees herself loved, provided for, chosen, and as if on cue, life responds. A phone call, a job offer, a person who says, I've been thinking about you, not by force, not by luck, but by law. Because when you embody the end, the bridge must appear. It is spiritual law, just as gravity is physical. It is written, before they call I will answer, while they are yet speaking I will hear. Isaiah 65:24. Do you understand? The call is answered before it is even voiced. But the answer arrives in your world only when you allow yourself to receive it. And receiving doesn't look like effort. It looks like confidence in silence, like the calm after planting a seed. When you no longer dig it up to check its progress, you simply know the roots are growing, even if unseen. This is how God surprises us, not because we earned it, but because we remembered what we never truly lost, the identity of the one who is already blessed. Impatience will tell you it's taking too long. Comparison will scream that others are ahead. Doubt will whisper that maybe it's not meant for you. But your soul knows better. It knows the difference between delay and denial. It knows the difference between a dream and a destiny. And it will nudge you softly but surely, until you come home to your natural state, assurance. The kind of assurance that feels like waking up from a nightmare, and remembering you were safe the whole time. You are safe now. More than safe, you are guided. Let the distractions fall away, not because they are bad, but because they are no longer needed. You've outgrown fear. You've outgrown lack. Now is the time to relax into what's always been true. Miracles don't rush. They unfold. They arrive through doorways you couldn't have imagined until you softened your grip and opened your hands. So take a deep breath. Feel it settle in your chest. The blessing is not in the distance. It is already circling you. Stay open, stay soft, and let God do what only He can do. There comes a moment, quiet, often unannounced, when you no longer chase the evidence, because you have become the proof. This is when God moves, not in thunder or spectacle, but in stillness. In the ordinary hour, in the gentle unfolding of what once felt impossible. Miracles rarely crash in. They tiptoe through the space you cleared when you stopped needing control. You may think you have to do more, say more, push more, but haven't you already tried that? The truth is, the most magnetic thing you could ever wear is ease. Ease is not apathy. It is trust dressed in silence. A woman once told me she'd been praying for years, asking for a break, for a shift, for money that didn't come with strings or shame. She was tired but not broken. She still held the flame even if small. One night she decided she was done waiting with clenched fists. She walked into her room, lay down and whispered, God, surprise me. Not as a plea, but as a knowing. She let go of the timeline, the how, the calculations. The next morning a forgotten debt was repaid. 3 days later she was offered a new position, one she hadn't even applied for. Within weeks her reality began reflecting the version of her that had finally relaxed into belief. Not a belief in effort, but a belief in favor. This is the miracle. Not just that things changed, but that she did. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Stillness is not empty. It is full of unseen power. That verse isn't asking you to stop moving. It's inviting you to stop struggling. There's a rhythm to your blessings. But it's not rushed. It dances to the beat of your inner conviction. So if your world feels quiet, if nothing seems to be happening, perhaps you're in the sacred pause, the space between sowing and blooming. This is not a void, it's a womb. You're not stuck, you're becoming. Keep imagining but without the ache. See yourself walking in the wealth, the love, the joy, but see it as natural, not distant. Let your inner conversations match your desired outcome, not just in words but in tone. Would the person who has already received sound frantic or peaceful? Would they worry about timing or smile because they know it's done? There is a you who already lives in the prayer answered. You've met glimpses of them in dreams, in daydreams, in the quiet. Let that version take the lead. And when doubt returns, because it will welcome it, don't resist it. Just nod and say, I remember who I am. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to persist. God isn't testing you. He's preparing you, softening the edges so the blessing doesn't break you. And when it comes, it will feel like a remembering, like you've been here before, because you have, in imagination, in feeling, in faith. You are not asking for a miracle. You are aligning with it. So relax. It's already coming. And when it arrives, you'll smile, not in surprise, but in recognition, because deep down, you always knew. Somewhere within you is a whisper you've silenced for years, a quiet certainty that longs to rise again. Not loud, not desperate, just sure. Sure that life was never meant to be this heavy. Sure that things could shift in an instant. Sure that what you feel deep within was placed there for a reason. This is the part of you God speaks to, the part not hardened by logic or bruised by delay. That whisper doesn't need you to figure it out. It just needs you to believe again. A man once told me he had given up. Too many doors slammed. Too many prayers echoed back in silence. He still went through the motions, work, bills, polite smiles. But his spirit had folded in on itself. Then, one evening with no plan, he stood by his window and wept, not with bitterness but with surrender. I don't know what's coming, he said out loud, but I know you do. That night something softened. Within a week he reconnected with an old friend who introduced him to a job that didn't exist yet, a position created just for him. His life didn't explode in fireworks. It turned subtly, gracefully, as if heaven had simply remembered his name. You see, God's miracles don't always shout. Sometimes they arrive wrapped in normal things. An unexpected call, a gentle nudge, a moment where it all makes sense. When you live in expectancy, you stop needing evidence. You become the signal. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. The moment you believe without needing proof, that is faith. That is the bridge. And it's not about perfection. You'll wobble, you'll forget. You'll get caught scrolling, doubting, comparing. That's okay. But remember to return. Return to that inner world where your future is already true. Don't chase miracles. Host them. Prepare your table. Dress your thoughts like the version of you who already has the thing. Feel rich in silence. Feel chosen before the world applauds you. Feel whole even when no one understands your path. This is not delusion. This is alignment. A woman once journaled, I am wealthy, I am free, I am guided. She wrote it while broke, confused, living in a noisy apartment with leaky pipes and overdue rent. But she wrote it like it was scripture. She said it like it was breath. 6 months later her art went viral. A collector discovered her. The very words she once wrote in private became the life she now lives in public. Not because she forced it, but because she felt it first. This is the way of spiritual law. Inner precedes outer. Assumption creates experience. The miracle is not in the money, the job, the applause. The miracle is when you realize you are no longer waiting. You are welcoming. That changes everything. Because when you no longer beg for signs, you become one. And you'll find yourself smiling at the smallest things. A parking space, a song, a stranger's kindness, knowing it's all evidence that you're in rhythm with something divine. So keep softening. Keep choosing stillness over struggle. Keep imagining with your heart, not your mind. Because right now, behind the curtain of your senses, God is arranging something beautiful. Not because you earned it, but because you aligned with it. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are willing to feel is already true. So feel it. Wear it inside your chest. Let it warm you. The surprise is closer than you think, and when it comes, it won't feel random. It'll feel like coming home. And isn't it funny how life begins to shift the moment you stop holding your breath? As if the universe had simply been waiting for you to stop bracing for disappointment and instead lean back into grace. There's a difference between forcing and allowing. One is born of fear, the other of faith. And so many are taught to strive, to climb, to push against time. But miracles don't arrive in clenched fists. They descend like snowflakes, soft, silent, yet utterly transformative. You don't need to strain for what's already yours. You need only relax into the knowing. The same way a flower never strains to bloom. It simply opens when the sun arrives. And when your heart opens, truly opens, what you've asked for will recognize you. Because it's been circling you like a hawk, waiting for the right moment to land. Not when you're the most desperate, but when you're the most still. A man once wrote to me, I spent years doing everything right. Affirmations, vision boards, all of it. And still nothing changed. But the moment I stopped trying to fix my life and started feeling the beauty of this breath, the right people, the right doors, the money, all of it came so fast it startled me. What he did was not give up. He gave in. He surrendered to trust. Because trust is the soil where the seed finally cracks open. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Psalm 23:2, still waters. Not raging rivers, not chaotic tides, still waters. And that is where you receive, not through frenzy, but through flow. And I know what you're thinking. But how do I stay still when bills are due? When time is ticking? When I'm scared? Let the fear be there. Let the mind scream. But choose to rest anyway. You see, rest is not the absence of thought. It is the refusal to be ruled by it. You become untouchable when you're no longer reacting. When you can walk through your day with a quiet power, knowing that nothing has to happen yet for everything to already be happening. A woman once imagined herself walking into her dream home. Every night she would sit on the edge of a worn-out couch, close her eyes, and feel the warmth of that new space, as if she were already there. She even picked out the color of the curtains, the scent she'd spray by the windows, the way the sunlight would kiss the tiles. She had no idea how it would happen. Her income couldn't afford it. Her credit wouldn't allow it. But within months, a friend's opportunity fell through, and she was offered a sublease to a home that matched her vision almost exactly. Even the same tile, even the way the sunlight poured in. That wasn't coincidence. That was alignment. When she matched the feeling, the form appeared. That's how creation works. You don't beg, you embody. You don't chase, you become. Even when doubt whispers, even when nothing on the outside changes, you hold the inner image like a flame in the dark. And every time you return to that feeling of already having, already being, you water the roots of your miracle. So don't be surprised when the miracle shows up faster than you thought. Don't be startled when God moves the mountain you once feared wouldn't budge, because you didn't climb the mountain. You became the one who no longer needed to. And when you rise in consciousness, the landscape below rearranges itself. Life bends, reality yields, and what once felt impossible suddenly feels obvious. The miracle didn't come from nowhere. It came from you. It came from the quiet choice to feel differently, even when nothing asked you to. And that choice, that little invisible shift, was always enough. Sometimes the moment right before the miracle feels like everything is falling apart, like the walls are closing in, like God has gone silent. But that silence is sacred. It is the hush before the curtain lifts, the stillness before the rain, the pause in breath before a baby cries its first sound. When nothing moves on the outside, it is because everything is shifting on the inside, invisible but inevitable. This is why you must not fear the delay. You must not shrink when the outside seems barren, because the seed does not bloom in the moment it is planted. It blooms after days of quiet darkness. It blooms when the soil has done its hidden work. What you're seeing now is not the absence of your miracle, but the rearranging of its arrival. A woman once shared with me how she lost her job unexpectedly. Her rent was due, her savings were thin, and her faith felt like it was cracking. She wanted to panic. Everything in her mind told her to spiral, to prepare for the worst. But something in her paused, just for a moment. She sat down, closed her eyes, and imagined the phone ringing, with an opportunity on the other end. She felt herself smiling in that vision, not out of desperation but relief. Relief because it had come. 2 days later, someone she hadn't spoken to in months called and offered her a freelance job. Not only did it cover her expenses, it opened the door to something better than the job she lost. You see, the miracle came not because she fought for it, but because she surrendered to it. And that's the key. Letting go is not giving up. Letting go is saying, I no longer resist what is already mine. When you stop trying to make it happen, you make space for it to arrive. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Be still, still enough to feel the truth again, still enough to hear the quiet whisper that says, it's already done, still enough to remember that what God has for you does not require effort to earn, only the willingness to receive. Even your doubts can't disqualify you. Even your missteps cannot block what is destined. You are not here to strive. You are here to allow. And the moment you say, I don't know how, but I trust, you open a channel wider than logic. That's when coincidences begin to chase you. That's when provision flows from places you never expected. That's when money favor healing. They don't knock, they rush in. And if tonight it feels like your faith is running thin, that's okay. You don't need perfect belief. You only need persistence in returning to the feeling. Even if you lose it again and again, come back, again and again. Like the tide, your trust will rise again. Like the dawn, your hope will return. And the miracle, it is already on its way. It's just waiting for you to stop chasing and start welcoming. So breathe, relax the need to control, close your eyes, and feel it done. You don't have to beg for it. You don't even have to deserve it. You just have to become still enough to remember it's already yours. And when you do, watch how fast the heavens respond. You may not feel ready. You may still carry the weight of past disappointments, unanswered prayers and promises that seem to fade into dust. But what if I told you none of that disqualifies you? In fact, what you call delay, God calls preparation. There is a shaping that happens when the miracle hasn't yet come, a softening, a clearing, an emptying to make room for the divine. Sometimes the blessing you're waiting for is too big for who you used to be. So life bends you, not to break you, but to build the space inside you wide enough to hold it. It's in those late night moments when doubt creeps in like fog, when your chest feels tight from wanting, from hoping, that you are nearest to the shift. That's where the choice is made, not in effort but in inner agreement, to say quietly, softly, without force, I still believe. Not because everything looks perfect, not because there's proof, but because the feeling, the knowing, still whispers underneath the noise. It's the knowing that got you this far. You've overcome more than you remember, and it wasn't by chance. Look back. Think of a time when you thought it was over, when you were sure the door had closed, and somehow you're here, breathing, healing, becoming. That same invisible hand that carried you then is carrying you now. And what's coming is not a small compensation for your waiting. It's not just enough to get by. No, what's coming is pressed down, shaken together, and running over. The kind of miracle that makes you weep not from shock but from recognition. Because your soul will remember, I imagined this, I felt this. Even when it wasn't here, it lived in me. Now unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think. Ephesians 3:20. Do you see? You don't need to figure out how. You only need to return to the feeling. The one that says, I am already in possession of the thing I desire. Hold it in your heart like a flame. Let it warm your chest when doubt chills your spine. Let it rock you to sleep at night like a lullaby. You're not faking it. You're forming it. Every time you persist in the feeling, even when your reality doesn't agree, you are sculpting the unseen into form. You are partnering with God. And that's the secret most forget. Manifestation is not about force. It's about union. You and the divine, breathing life into the invisible. So when your mind says, but what if it doesn't come? You answer gently, it's already here. When impatience buzzes like static and distraction pulls you into loops of fear, you slow down, you breathe, and you return. Because the feeling is the map, the anchor, the miracle in seed form. And that seed, it doesn't need fixing, only faith, only nourishment. And when the time is right, not forced, not hurried, the miracle will rise from the soil of your spirit and meet you on the road like an old friend. You'll look around and say, of course, this is what I always knew was coming. Because the surprise was never that it happened. The surprise is how effortlessly it arrived once you stopped resisting. And oh, how sweet it will be to witness the moment when heaven touches down in your life and everything begins to bloom. Somewhere in the quiet space between desire and fulfillment lies a truth most people overlook. You were never waiting for the miracle. The miracle was waiting for you. Not the version of you who doubts, who scrolls, who worries the hours away rehearsing what ifs in the dark, but the you who dares to be still. The you who closes their eyes, leans back into the silence and says, I trust it's already done. Because you don't attract what you beg for. You attract what you become. And becoming isn't always loud. Sometimes it's so gentle, so quiet. You don't realize it's happening until you've outgrown your old panic and replaced it with peace. That's when the door opens. It's almost unfair how effortlessly it comes after all the struggle. Not because you finally earned it, but because you finally stopped resisting it. You stopped clutching, stopped striving, stopped bargaining with the divine like a beggar outside a feast that was prepared just for you, and instead you sat down. You said grace with your eyes still empty and your heart still hungry, and somehow you were filled. That is the moment everything begins to shift. When you don't need the money to feel wealthy, when you don't need the call to feel chosen, when you don't need the proof to know it's real. This is what it means to walk by faith, not by sight, to become the cause, not the effect, to embody the vibration before the evidence. That's why Jesus said, whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that those things which he saith shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he saith. Mark 11:23. You see, it's not about saying it louder, it's about saying it from stillness. The mountain doesn't move for noise, it moves for authority, and authority comes from alignment. You speak with power when you feel it as true, not when you need to be convinced, but when you know in your bones, it is already mine. Feel it with me for a moment, that money you've been asking for. What would it feel like to have it now? Not to chase it, not to analyze it, but to hold it in your spirit, with ease. What would change in your breath, your shoulders, your sleep? You see, it's not about the digits in a bank account. It's about the state you live from. And when that state becomes natural, the world must conform. You won't need to chase opportunities. They'll begin to chase you. You'll speak less and attract more. You'll move slower but create faster. Because miracles don't come from pressure. They come from presence. And sometimes the presence you cultivate in your darkest night is the very magnet that draws your greatest light. So let your hands unclench. Let your thoughts settle like snow. Let your heart open like a flower in spring. The miracle is near. It doesn't need more effort. It needs more stillness. It doesn't require proof. It requires faith. And you, beloved, you are ready. Because God doesn't surprise the perfect. He surprises the surrendered. He shows up when you least expect it. Because he's never truly left. You were just too busy trying to notice the blessing knocking. Let it in. Let it flood your life. Let it humble you in the best way. Not because you didn't deserve it, but because you almost forgot just how loved you are. And when the miracle arrives, as it surely will, don't say, how did this happen? Say, of course, this is who I've been becoming all along. Sometimes when nothing seems to be happening on the outside, everything is happening on the inside. The roots grow in silence before the flower ever blooms. The clay must rest in stillness before it is shaped. And the soul, your soul, must often be stretched in darkness before it can radiate with light. There's no shame in the in-between. No failure in the waiting. It is not a punishment, it is preparation. You were never forgotten. You were being formed. And just like the seed that pushes against the soil, you may feel resistance now. But that pressure is not the end. It's the beginning. The shell cracks before the sprout breaks through. The night deepens just before the dawn. And though the mind whispers, it's too late, the spirit replies, now is the perfect time. You are being moved into alignment with something you couldn't have orchestrated on your own. A job you never applied for. A person you never expected. A door you didn't knock on, but swings open as if it always knew your name. Because you see, the miracle doesn't come by striving. It comes by surrender. And surrender isn't giving up. It's giving over. Letting the higher wisdom within you guide you without resistance. As the scripture reminds us, eye hath not seen nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man, the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. 1 Corinthians 2:9. There is more prepared for you than you could imagine. But the door to that more is not locked. It is simply opened by belief. The kind of belief that feels like rest, like letting go of the reins, like exhaling for the first time in days, trusting that life can move through you without your constant control. And here's the secret few will ever understand. You don't attract miracles by needing them. You attract them by becoming the one who no longer needs proof. You become the abundance, the joy, the love, the safety, and then the world rushes in to mirror your state. There's a story I once heard about a woman who was drowning in debt. Each night she imagined herself opening a letter that said, paid in full, not with desperation but with quiet joy, as if it had already been handled. She would smile in the dark, feel the relief in her chest, see herself calling a friend to celebrate. For 30 nights she did this. Nothing changed at first, but on the 31st morning, she received a call from a relative she hadn't spoken to in years. He had come into money and felt moved, unexplainably moved, to pay off her balance. That's not coincidence. That's consciousness. She aligned herself with the end result, and the bridge of incidents was built from there. This is the pattern. Feel it done. Live in the end. Rest in the knowing. and watch as life surprises you with its orchestration. Not always how you expected, not always when you hoped, but always on time. So if tonight your hands are tired from holding it all together, release them. Let the God within you take over. Let yourself soften into expectancy. Let your soul breathe, because miracles are not rare. They are simply unfamiliar to those who never dwell in the unseen. But you are learning to dwell there, to trust the invisible realm where all things begin. Stay faithful in your inner vision. Don't check the soil every hour for proof. Tend to the feeling. Protect your peace. Water your inner garden with gratitude. And when it arrives, as it surely will, when life wraps a blessing around your name and delivers it in a way that makes you laugh with wonder, you'll remember this moment. The night you stopped doubting. The night you surrendered. The night you chose peace over panic. And in doing so opened the floodgates for all you had been asking for. Because God doesn't just answer prayers, He exceeds them. The most extraordinary shifts often begin in the most ordinary moments, not with thunder or lightning, but with a whisper, a calm inner knowing that something has changed, and you won't always be able to explain it. You may not have the words for why you feel lighter, why your chest expands with ease, why the weight you carried for so long feels distant, but that's how miracles come, quietly, naturally, as if they had always been part of the story. You are not meant to strain for them. You are meant to receive, and receiving is not passive. It is presence. It is showing up as the version of you who already believes. It is embodying the version who walks in faith even when the hallway is still dark. The one who smiles in traffic, forgives quickly, holds the vision even when others call it foolish, because that's the path of the mystic, of the one who knows that what is seen is born from what is unseen. You are not manifesting from scratch. You are revealing what already exists within you. And the surprise God has in store is only surprising to the mind, not to the soul. The soul knew. It always knew. That's why you never fully gave up. That's why some small part of you kept listening, kept reading these words, kept breathing deeply into the silence when the world around you was loud with doubt. You were being drawn, pulled gently into alignment. It doesn't matter how long it's taken. It doesn't matter how far you drifted. Miracles are not delayed by time. They are delivered through your assumption. And if that assumption lives in your body, if it becomes a feeling that wraps itself around your day like warm light, then life has no choice but to meet you there. Before they call, I will answer. And while they are yet speaking, I will hear. Isaiah 65:24. That is not a metaphor. It is a spiritual law. And you, dear soul, are standing at the threshold of it. This is your turning point. This is where things begin to unfold in ways that make no sense, but feel undeniably right. A call from someone you hadn't heard from. An opportunity you didn't seek out. A solution that arrives without effort. After weeks of struggle, it won't be logical, but it will be perfect. Because when you relax, you allow. When you allow, you receive. And when you receive, you remember. You were never lacking. You were simply learning how to get out of the way. So let this final moment be your exhale. Let the effort fall from your shoulders. Let your mind stop trying to figure it out. Let your body rest. Let your heart open. Let God surprise you. No striving, no clenching, no proving. Only trust, only peace, only the quiet knowing that the life you've dreamed of is already reaching for you. You are not chasing blessings. You are catching up to them, and they're coming faster than you think, because something in you has shifted. And when you shift, the whole universe adjusts its course to honor that new vibration. Let it come. Let it be easy. Let yourself feel worthy enough to receive without guilt, without delay, without fear. You don't have to earn it. You just have to allow it. And as you drift into rest tonight, know this: you are already on holy ground. The miracle isn't out there. It's in here. And tomorrow, when the light pours through your window, may it remind you of what was always true, that the moment you surrendered, He began. And now it's already done.